What is up, gentlemen? Welcome back to the channel. My name is... Wait, sorry about that. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Paladin, and today I'm going to be going over the Shadowlands Legendaries for Protection Paladin. Now, before I get started, just two disclaimers. Firstly, these values that you're going to be seeing on the Legendaries are subject to change by Blizzard. They are still tuning stuff, obviously, before the expansion drops. However, within the past 2 weeks, there really haven't been too many changes to Protection Paladin, so these are definitely current at the moment, but they might change a little bit here and there from here until launch. Secondly, I'm going to first go over the Paladin-wide Legendaries, so that is to say the Legendaries that are usable across all 3 specs. Then I'll go over briefly a legendary that is a Retribution legendary that for some reason Protection Paladins can also use. And then finally I'll be going over the Prot specific legendaries. Timestamps are going to be in the timeline below for you to skip if you would like. With that said, let's get started with Of Dusk and Dawn. So this legendary reads, when you reach 5 holy power, you gain Blessing of Dawn. When you reach 0 holy power, you gain Blessing of Dusk. So Blessing of Dawn, when you reach 5 holy power, when you accrue it in your bar, your damage and healing will be increased by 6% for 10 seconds. When you have 0 holy power, you'll get Blessing of Dusk, and what that does is that you get damage taken is reduced by 6% for 10 seconds. Now, overall, I like the theme of this legendary. It's really cool that you get stuff for, saving up holy power, and you also get stuff for expending all your holy power. However, in practice, I don't know how useful it will be. 6%. 6% is not something to scoff at, but it's not super insane either. I think that this might be a legendary that you'll use maybe later on down the expansion when you can use more than one legendary. Next up, we have the Magistrate's Judgment, and what this does is that it gives Judgment a 60% chance to reduce the cost of your next Holy Power spender by 1. Now, this is a very solid legendary. Getting that holy power reduction on your next spender, which for us will be Word of Glory or our Shield of the Righteous, is going to be very good. It's a more than 50% chance, so it has a pretty good chunk of uptime, and it's going to be good for maybe getting some extra off heals in raid because you're going to be getting that reduced cost on WoG, or you'll be able to spam a little bit more Shield of the Righteous and do a little bit more damage. Overall, I think this is a pretty good and solid legendary for raid, not so much for Mythic Plus, and the reason I say that is because in Mythic Plus, you already have 100% uptime on Shield of the Righteous, and the reduced cost on Word of Glory isn't going to be too big a deal. You'll be able to get a couple extra off heals, but there are going to be better legendaries as you'll see for Mythic Plus. Next up, we have Uther Sanctuary, and what this does is that it decreases the cooldown by 1 second per holy power spent for your Blessing of Freedom, Sacrifice, and Protection. This is a pretty good utility legendary. Getting that reduced cooldown on the blessings is definitely a really cool idea. I always like to, throw Sacrifice or Blessing of Protection on somebody when they're about to take a lot of damage. It makes you feel good as a paladin in general. It makes you feel useful. However, as a protection paladin, this really is not going to be something that we're going to be using. There are going to be better defensive legendaries that allow you to tank better, be a tank that doesn't die, instead of, giving your raid or your party members a little bit more utility. And lastly, for the shared legendaries, we have Vanguard's Momentum, which I actually don't have a capture of, so I'll put it up on screen for you guys here. What this does is that it gives Hammer of Wrath 2 extra charges, and it increases the holy damage done by 2% for 8 seconds, stacking up to 3 times. So what this is doing is that it's empowering Hammer of Wrath, and it'll give you up to 6% extra holy damage while you're able to use Hammer of Wrath. The only problem with this is that you can only use Hammer of Wrath when you have Avenging Wrath up or when you're executing something, so it's really just a DPS legendary, and for Protection Paladins, this isn't even a good DPS legendary. As you'll see later on, we have better DPS legendaries than this one. For now, for Protection at least, you're not going to be using this. Now here we have that outlier that I was talking about, and that's going to be a Retribution Paladin legendary called Mad Paragon's Pursuit. What this one does is that Hammer of Wrath extends Avenging Wrath time by 1 second, and it deals 25% additional damage. This was actually better earlier in the beta. Before, Hammer of Wrath used to extend Avenging Wrath by 2 seconds instead of 1. It was nerfed, and honestly, this is pretty useless for Protection Paladins. You're not going to be using this over some of the other legendaries that we have in our disposal. Moving on to the actual 4 Protection Paladin specific legendaries, we are starting off with the Ardent Protector Sanctum. This is going to empower your Ardent Defender to make you take an additional 10% less damage while you're under the effect of Ardent Defender, And when you activate Ardent Defender, it will also apply it to the nearest ally within 15 yards. This is a pretty unique legendary. It's going to give you more damage reduction, and it gives you the utility of giving somebody else near you a cheat death. So this could definitely come up in raid situations, maybe even very niche Mythic Plus situations where you'll use this as a utility legendary in one-shot scenarios. Aside from that, I don't think that you'll be using this one too often, but it's definitely very unique and definitely has its uses. Next up we got Reign of Endless Kings, and this reads, when you drop below 20% health, you become infused with Guardian of Ancient Kings for 4 seconds. The effect can occur more than once every 45 seconds. Now, this is a pretty cool legendary. I personally like the effect of the legendary. It's pretty interesting and unique. And in a Mythic Plus setting, you would essentially have this up 100% of the time, right? Every time you go into a trash pool, you know, it's going to take you about 1 to 1.5 minutes per trash pool anyway, so you're going to have uptime on it. However, it's really not as good as it appears. Now, the reason I say that is because if you're playing the spec correctly and you drop below 20% health, you should have enough holy power pooled up and ready for a word of glory. In addition, usually if you take that much damage, right, if you take burst damage that brings you down to 20% HP, it's because you missed an interrupt or you're about to eat a hard-hitting ability, right? It's not going to be consistent damage. You're not going to be consistently taking 80% damage over and over and over again. You're just going to take that quick burst and then you're going to have to heal up from it and recover. But you're not going to be taking 80% damage here and then 2 seconds later 80% damage, 2 seconds later 80%. Like, that doesn't happen. So after you take that burst, what's the point in having damage mitigation afterwards, right? The damage mitigation you needed before you took that burst damage. So there's really no point in having that damage reduction after you already got hit for a big chunk of your HP. I think it could be made better if they extended the duration a little bit of the ability, or if they brought up the health requirement to maybe 30% health whenever you drop below 30%. But even then, I think that something like Of Dusk and Dawn is probably going to be a better suited legendary than this one. And finally, we're getting into the spicy stuff. Now, this is one of the most popular legendaries right now for Protection Paladin. It's called Seal of Righteous Fury, and what it does is that each target hit by a vendor shield increases the damage of the next Shield of the Righteous by 40%. Now, I'll tell you right now that that value is actually 30%. They did nerf that about 2 weeks ago. It's no longer 40, it's 30%. However, this is still a very strong legendary. It makes Protection Paladin do insane amounts of damage, especially in Mythic Plus situations, and this is definitely going to be one of the most contentious ones when you're trying to decide what to use. It just makes you do astronomical amounts of damage, especially in AoE, but even in single target. Now finally, we have what I believe to be the best one, and what my personal favorite legendary is right now. And that's going to be Holy Avenger's Engraved Sigil. Very simply, all this does is that it gives your Avenger Shield a 50% chance to have its cooldown instantly reset when used. That's right, whenever you use Avenger Shield, there's a 50% chance that you just get to use Avenger Shield again. And after you use Avenger Shield that second time, there's a 50% chance that you get to use it again and again and again, and it just keeps on stacking. I've seen people get up to like 5 or sometimes even, you know, very rare, but 6 Avenger Shield in a row. This paired with the first Avenger talent that gives you a shield for 100% of the Avenger Shield damage that you do is an insane synergy. Not only are you going to be doing more AoE damage because you're getting more Avenger Shield resets, but you're also going to mitigate more damage because you have a shield for 100% of the damage that Avenger Shield does if you spec into that talent. So overall, this is definitely my favorite legendary because my favorite ability for Protection Paladin is by far Avenger Shield, and being able to use more Avenger Shield makes me happy. Plus, in addition to that, you're going to be doing insane amounts of AoE with this, and you're also going to be getting that increased mitigation if you talent into First Avenger. And that's going to wrap up all the Protection Paladin legendaries. Let me know what you guys think. Overall, I think that we have some pretty unique legendaries. I think that some of them could be buffed a little bit, but overall, most of them are useful. Some of them have their niche situations, others are more broadly applicable. However, Protection Paladin is in a pretty decent space right now with the legendaries. Let me know what your favorite legendary is, what you guys are looking forward to using in the comments. I for sure am looking forward to using the Avengers Shield Reset one. I think that's going to be the most fun. If you've made it this far in the video, thank you so much for watching. Consider subscribing, and I'll catch you in the next one.